sensors, covers most of Pareto Occipital. It's got quite a bit of the default mode network covered, which is super nice for neurofeedback, of course.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech for Psych, where we combine the latest in neurotechnology with ancient wisdom to supercharge your brain. I'm Dr. Cody Rawle, your medical doctor confidant. In this video, we are going to take a look at the new mobile EEG neurofeedback platform, Divergence. We've got CEO Alex Nee here to talk to us about what is unique about Divergence, give us a run through, take a look at its provider login platform, its training app, how you can get involved, and other things that make this a really special program. I'm really excited about this company, and what the tool that they've built is really unlike anything that we've seen in mobile EEG neurofeedback at this point. I was really excited to hear more about the program because I'm planning on actually offering it as an advanced training option to my clients in the brain circuit training program. I apologize for the audio on my end. I did have my good mic set up, but the computer recorded from my ear pods. So the audio on my side isn't as good, but at least Alex's came through crystal clear. So I hope you enjoy the video and get a lot of value out of it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Tech for Psych. We've got Alex Nee here, founder of Divergence, a neurofeedback platform. Alex, thanks so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure, Cody. Thanks for having me.
And Alex, we were talking a little bit earlier. You have a very interesting background, kind of a convergence between software, neuroscience, and business development. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how this led you to founding Divergence?
Certainly, yeah. I am a software engineer by trade, and I started working as a software engineer since day one I graduated from university, and I've worked there pretty much my whole life. Took on a different set of roles throughout my career, from a developer to architect to enterprise architect, manager, director, VP, and CTO. So, very much spent my entire life building software and hopefully making things simpler and more user-friendly and more robust. Most recently, living in the space of cloud-based software, machine learning, and mobility. So really kind of happy to spend my time, applying my knowledge and experience in the field of neuroscience and psychology.
And you have some background in some more hardcore EEG sensing, epilepsy diagnostic hardware that kind of led you down this path, right?
Yes, certainly. So I got hired to lead the technology and engineering department of a startup in 2015 called Avertis. And Avertis was a company that was founded by some pioneers, from University of Toronto researchers and clinicians with a focus of epilepsy and using EEG as a modality to detect early onset of seizure. So we were working with some really smart people that not only built the hardware, but we built a team of software engineers that brought EEG to the cloud, was live streaming pretty much for the first time that we knew of in 2016. So that's what led me sort of down this path of neuroscience. Yeah.
So tell us about Divergence.
Yeah, Divergence is a software company that was founded just about a year ago from today, actually. We live in a space of mental health technology. We want to make mental health technology more accessible, more affordable, and more user-friendly. So that's really why we're here. We're a team of neuroscientists, therapists, doctors, biomedical engineers, software engineers, and business professionals that are focused on a single goal, that is improve the state of technology for mental health today.
And how does Divergence do that?
Well, we have two sort of segments of our business. So first, we conduct research in some of the more sort of leading edge of psychedelic research in the context of psychotherapy. We're working with some of the leading brands like Antheon Biomedical to use the power of data, specifically EEG, combined with self-reported data to build machine learning models that not only sort of track where somebody is throughout the journey, before, during, and after, but also predict the potential outcome of a therapeutic process. So we're doing a lot of research there using EEG and other information through machine learning and other scientific processes. But we also have a product division that builds a neurofeedback platform. So we launched earlier in July, which is sort of our beta launch, and we officially launched our 1.0 just recently in October. Was feature complete neurofeedback, remote neurofeedback platform using our first hardware partner with Neurosity. So I think you interviewed AJ and Alex Castillo just in your last episode. Fantastic talk. I'm a huge fan of these guys, so we're partnered with them. We launched with this device, the Neurosity Crown, and we're looking to add more devices in the not so distant future into our platform. So that's what we do. Our product really enables therapists, clinicians, anybody that has an interest in using neuro as a modality of their therapeutic intervention to do so remotely and affordably.
This is like so exciting for providers in the mental health space because, as you know, like there hasn't been such resources before. And I know we were talking a little bit earlier about the philosophy behind that, where you just didn't have brain data to work from before. I wanted to hear your viewpoint on that and how it encouraged you to get into this space, because I mean, this is really groundbreaking stuff. This really hasn't been done before in this capacity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned that, right? Certainly, I think you're right in a sense that, when we looked into the past, the data simply hadn't been there. And I think there are a couple of reasons why that is. First, everyone that tunes into your show probably has some sort of idea what neurofeedback is. You've spoken with a lot of great companies, from Interaxon to MindLift to others that are already entrenched in the space. But you see, the clinical practice in neurofeedback really is still predicated by and large was tools that are from a past decade or decades ago, and I think a lot of these tools are still very much built with the limitation of last generation hardware. For instance, the requirement of an amplifier and CAN bus interfaces are something that isn't really kind of a baseline technology if you look at today. So people are, walking around with mobile phones and they're, carrying their tablets and constantly connected to the internet. There really isn't a place that CAN bus serial interface or huge brick amplifiers that cost, tens of thousands of dollars. I think that served as a limitation in today's day and age, to this technology really being proliferated and really kind of serve a large majority of the population who could use it and it could really benefit from it. So I think price and accessibility is a huge factor why some of the data isn't there in a clinical sense, right? So it's fine and good for a high-end clinic to own one or two of these machines because they're so expensive, and patient has to come into the clinic, which generates another hurdle in terms of access. And on top of that, I think the price of these therapy sessions aren't necessarily to the point that they're affordable to most who need it. We passed the Mental Health Parity Act in 2018, but reality is, there's still only about 70% of parity in terms of every dollar spent on mental health versus, physical health in the United States, for instance. So there's still work ahead of us that, everyone can do in terms of making these technologies more affordable and more usable across the board and user friendly, right? So I think that's, yeah.
Well, I think it's important to note that unlike some of these other devices where you can just start using them out of the box, but they're kind of a black box, you can't alter the feedback mechanisms on them. Divergence is a full-on platform where your therapist can adjust different brainwave levels to do different treatments. Could you talk about Divergence a little bit more in terms of a therapeutic tool with a lot of flexibility that people can use?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So we are a full-on neurofeedback mental health digital platform. And what I mean by that is, we cover the process end to end from a therapist being able to assess a patient in terms of intake, create a program for them, administer that program remotely on their smartphone, enabling their device remotely, and the patient being able to carry through with that program by doing neurofeedback protocols remotely and enter their self-reported assessment remotely, all on our mobile app. It is an end-to-end process, an end-to-end platform. We combine, the narrative data, the self-reported data together with, the neurofeedback data, as I'll show you in a second, in terms of what we can really put together. So you've got this 360 view between the patient and the therapist. We're pretty excited about it.
And I'm excited about some of the protocols that you guys will include in the program as, something that people can use with their clients, which is based off of research from people that have been in the field for decades, like Jeff Tarrant. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, of course. Yeah, Jeff has been a good friend and a mentor for many of us. And for our team, he's really one of the founding advisors on advisory board. So Jeff always had this dream as well that one day, we may take the wonderful fruits of his labor and intellectual sort of capacity in terms of these wonderful protocols on NMI and Neuromeditation Institute, and we may be able to scale them at such a point that most people can benefit from them without the sort of onus of having $20,000 hardware or $10,000 hardware and take a 4-week course on how to use the said hardware. So I think from day one, Jeff's been with us, and his guidance has been absolutely instrumental in us funding this company and building this product, right? So, and he's very actively involved. He was testing protocols with us, even just last week, right? And I think he's pretty happy to see, based on my last conversation with him, how far this has gone and how well this protocols have been adapting. In terms of what we've been able to do with it. And so, of course, we continue to rely on him in many ways. We're working with NMI in a very close capacity to develop a program where we can scale some of the more popular protocols that he's been teaching his students in our platform in a way that is easy and accessible with, a unit like the Neurosity Crown that can be affordable to most people.
Yeah, I've had him on the channel a couple of times, and I've always enjoyed our conversations and learned a lot from him. So I think that you had a demo that you wanted to show us today, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Let me just, I think you're just going to let me share my screen here. So yes, I do like to share a bit of what our primary interface looks like. So this is my test account based on a Canadian instance here. So we do have a Canadian and American instance right now for data compliance rules. So first off, you can see a list of clients. This is actually my architect, Evan. So I can of course abstract the private detail by using privacy mode, which is a nice little feature. I can go in and I can see, what this client has done in the past in terms of neurofeedback sessions that's been recorded. And I can, of course, create a protocol here. So I've created 3 protocols that are really the NMI protocols here. So I can deploy one relatively quickly. You can see that I can use deploy to create a new session and say Alex's test protocol, test session, and I will assign that to my client. And there's a couple of ways you can deploy the protocol. So this is where innovation made in user experience makes this really easy. So you can deploy it on a fixed day of a week and iterate over several weeks. So I can say I want to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 3 weeks, or alternatively, I can look at a calendar view and say, the number of days or which day exactly I want my protocol to be active. So, I'm going to try that just because I know exactly what I'm getting into here. So I've got a protocol session deployed over the next 5 days. So when I hit save session, I can see the Quiet Mind protocol created by our wonderful Jeff Tarrant is in here as part of our session. So the other cool thing about this interface is that you can design your entire session workflow very flexibly by interweaving protocols and assessments. So I have a little one question questionnaire here. By the way, you can create any questionnaire you want, however many questions and styles. So I'm just going to insert this question at the end of that protocol, and I'll call it a QM assessment. Just kind of see how my client's done after the Quiet Mind exercise has been done, right? So it just kind of helps tie in the subjective self-report together with the protocol execution. So I'm going to go next and save that session. I can view that in my session list somewhere. I think it showed up at the end. Alex's test protocol. There we go. So you can see the number of days that it's iterating over, what's in the protocol, and the device, the protocol, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to deactivate this other one. And I'm going to activate this protocol. And once I activate it, I will see it on my mobile phone. So for time's sake, I've logged in this before. So in this app here, you can see everything that you've completed historically with a string of activity records here and how you've done against them. I haven't done quite well, as you can see. But yeah, when you log in, there's my protocol that I just created and pushed to myself. So what I'm going to do right now is turn on my crown, Cody. So once my crown gets turned on, it'll detect the presence here from the app that the crown has been paired with my protocol, and I can actually go ahead and do one of these protocols here. So just give it a minute. Yeah, so this is really a wonderful unit. By the way, I love our friends at Neurosity. They've created such a beautiful form factor. We all love using the crown, with some of the protocols. And it's actually, because it's 8 sensors, covers most of the Pareto occipital, it's got quite a bit of the default mode network covered, which is super nice for neurofeedback, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and try this, see if it did come online. So this thing sometimes takes a little bit to update. Might just actually be able to do this now. There we go. We got some green sliding up here. So while this takes a while, it's actually mostly okay to go ahead and start a protocol. So I'm going to start this protocol. So this is a classic Quiet Mind protocol. You can see, I don't know if the sound's going to come across, but when I start the protocol, what it's going to do is starting the baseline of baseline measurement EEG. So that's going to establish where my baseline is at. And then there is going to be 3 minutes of active protocol execution. So if you want to look at the constitution of the protocol, all you have to do is go to the protocol and see what's going on here. So I've got 1 minute baseline here and 4 minute in total duration. So let's try that out. Okay, wish me luck. I'm going to close my eyes and do my baseline. So, working with them is super easy. We have a lot of fun, creating these solutions together. There we go. That's my darndest attempt, 52. Okay, not bad. I think Jeff will be proud. All right, so when we finish the protocol execution, we just simply click complete protocol here, and then you can see that there's a battery indicator, which is quite handy. Tells me that I've got 60%, 62% battery left on my crown. So when it goes low, I know to put it on the charger. So I can go ahead and do that assessment that I signed to myself. So right after this is a very helpful thing to just kind of get a subjective assessment. I think I'm somewhat quiet, not 100%, but definitely not zero either. So it kind of updates my session progress because I've only had one session assigned to myself today. So that went from 0 to 100, very encouraging. And it totals up my number of minutes meditated so far. Could do better this week, but there's my last session updated from the protocol. All right, so let's take a look at the therapist side when this happens. So we've just got a client that's completed the meditation. So what do we see as a therapist? So right off the bat, you see that there's a view session update. So you can see the session score, 52% being the last session. So here's my test protocol that we've just completed. And I can actually look at when the session was completed, and I can look at which protocol it was and which assessment was, if there's an assessment. And most importantly, I can click this and drill down, and I can look at not only my raw EEG here as I navigate through the time series. I can also look at my effectiveness score as per my definition of events. So a little bit of explanation here. An event is basically a criteria that's created comprised of sites that you're interested in, action, either reward or inhibit, and power band that you're interested in, or frequency band that you're interested in. So what we do is we set up a threshold. So we beat this threshold based on the baseline calculation in the active session. That's counted as a success. So you can see I've done quite well here, producing massive amount of alpha, which tends to be my brain. 73% of the time. So that's hitting well on the first goal. But okay on a second goal as well, inhibiting beta in the front. So I think I made this super easy for myself. Of course, you can customize these things in a protocol creation anyhow you want as you see fit. So here's my raw EEG. So you can navigate through this 4-minute segment. I'm not going to review frame by frame, but sometimes you can see there's ambulatory noise here. And then what the software does is it actually filters a lot of the extreme values out. So, on the alpha scale, you've got about, range from 3 to 25, which is fairly accurate. And on the beta scale, you've got quite a lot less, in terms of raw microvolts, which is 0.5 to about 7 as a ceiling. So this tracks well with, sort of Go standard devices as far as we understand. So that's the software. Alongside of protocols, of course, we can create assessments. We can say, hey, I can do an intake assessment fairly easily by creating all sorts of different questions, and I can assign that to my client once they are first onboarded. Do you feel anxious often? I'm just creating sample questions. And I can make that a multiple choice, a free-form text, or a drag scale. I do like the drag scale because it does more of an intuitive input mode. So not at all to everyday. So what this is going to do is push this question to a particular client that I'm assigning this to, allowing me to, as a therapist, stay very connected with them in terms of how they're feeling day to day on, as they go through the program and training. This is a helpful little tool for client to be reminded to do their homework on a daily or weekly basis, right? So they don't have to, write down something in a spreadsheet or send an email. It's right on their app. So we quite like this feature. It's pretty neat. So I can assign that to a client just like that. And so that is basically our platform. And if you can see the assessment here, the assessment that I just created just showed up here. So I can answer that. As soon as I answer that, it will show up on my tracking. So that was the one I just answered. And there it is. Yeah, that's basically our platform.
So you mentioned a couple of things as you were getting in your meditation session. I didn't want to interrupt you too much, but we were talking about, first of all, I think a lot of people on this channel have probably used the Muse headband before. And when you use the Muse headband, often the rain and storm signifies that you've lost. The goal of the meditation is the birds indicate a reward, but it's a little bit different here on this platform where the volume actually increases as you get more towards what it's been designed for you to get towards. Could you explain that a little bit, and then also talk a little bit about the crown and how it's covering other areas that haven't been used before for neurofeedback, like the default mode network?
First off, I like to start by, saying that Muse is a wonderful device. It's really one of the first devices that came out direct to consumer that really kind of educated most people that didn't know anything about brainwaves or neuromeditation or neurofeedback. And I think, that being said, there's certain limitations of, a device that's really frontal and temporal focused. For one thing, there's really no way that you could tap into sort of the cingulate parietal area of the brain, which is really where the default mode network is. And the importance of the default mode network is that it really is something that tells us a lot about somebody's relationship with themselves, and in terms of tranquility, in terms of quietness. You get everything that you need as an assessment from the default mode network in terms of how somebody relates to their own inner state, right? So you don't get that from frontal or temporal for that matter. But this device here is wonderful because you've got PO3, PO4, which is tritonal-occipital, C3, C4, and I think some of the, P3, P4, and then F5, F6. So you've got a very nice coverage of, basically the default mode network right in your disposal. So you can use a lot of that to your advantage when designing a protocol like Quiet Mind. So this is, of course, Dr. Taryn's brainchild. So in terms of really being able to do these protocols, we rely 100% on Dr. Taryn and Neuromeditation Institute to give us guidance in terms of what the right sites and frequency bands are. So as I mentioned before, we're collaborating very closely with NMI to be able to release a content suite that has several of these protocols that have been tried and true for many, many years through Dr. Taryn and his group. So I think that we're excited to get that out there and have most people, being able to take a run at it and at a price that's really affordable. And really, I think, in terms of how the behavior needs to be, if we're looking at a neurofeedback capacity, we trust that the therapist would have the most intimate knowledge on how to create the right kind of feedback with particular patients. We're off the view that, of course, everybody's brain is different. So there's no one size fits all. When it comes to therapy, you've got to work with the particular divergences of particular patients. And what that means is, sometimes you have to tweak the feedback. You have to, customize when you go up, when you go down in terms of volume or screen brightness and so forth and so on. And that is exactly why, we built the capability of customize all these things in our protocol creation. So you can use any feedback track that you like. You can have it play discrete or continuously. You can make the volume go up or down anyhow you want based on customizable criteria. So, but by default, we trust the experience that NMI and Dr. Taryn provides to us as far as neuromeditation goes are sort of the standard textbook experience. I can't comment on Muse as much. I mean, they're sort of from an earlier era, but I think that from the feedback that we've been receiving from our customers on, just Quiet Mind alone, a lot of people have told us that they really responded very, very well with Quiet Mind. And so that's certainly encouraging to hear, though not surprising at all, because it's Dr. Tarrant's algorithm, right? So he's trained generations of therapists on these principles. So they remain the same, although the technology has been miniaturized and mobilized.
Yeah, so exciting. So if people want to get involved with Divergence, how can they do so?
Well, they can always hit us up on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They can drop us a line at info@divergenceneuro.com. And, we're running a beta. So anyone can just go to app.divergenceneuro.com to sign up for a free 30-day trial if they're interested. We also have a sort of affiliation with our partner, of course, Neurosity. You can buy a Neurosity crown through, registration process for your 30-day free trial. Follow us on Twitter, Divergence Neuro, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. We're fairly active, so or drop us a line.
That's awesome. And just to wrap things up, what's coming up for Divergence in the next couple of months?
Certainly. So a lot of exciting things, Cody. So we spoke of, measurement and being able to monitor, as you've seen, sort of sessions afterward. But we're working on actively is to improve our architecture so we can support real-time streaming so that somebody could look at their patient as the patient's going through a protocol real time, and they can monitor, they can dial the threshold up or down. That's something that we're actively working on now as an improvement. We're also working on, as mentioned, the Neuromeditation Institute protocol package, for a whole different segment of users that are more sort of coaching oriented. So these might not be, your clinicians or therapists from the traditional definition, but they certainly work with patients in terms of coaching and performance improvements. These users will need a slightly different set of functionalities. For instance, we're packaging up the content into a content protocol package so they don't have to basically fuss over the nuance of how to create every detail of the protocol would be pre-created so they can just take it and deploy. So that will certainly open up, the access to the platform for more and more people using it more on the sort of performance or recreational scale, right? So these are a couple of pretty exciting things we're working on. A little bit down the road, we're also working on a assessment capability using EEG baseline to create assessment and comparing that to a normative database to figure out, how divergent somebody is really, by looking at sort of, spectral analysis or other modality of EEG-based assessment, and ultimately, going towards digital phenotyping or digital tracking of somebody's neural health by being able to map out a journey. Here's where you started, here's how you're progressing, and here's at the end of the program how you're looking. So really look at mental health in a holistic way, by combining the sort of biometric, empirical ways of tracking things with the self-reporting, so that we can get a more comprehensive image of how somebody's doing. So
wow. I'm really excited. And I really appreciate you coming on the channel to talk about it, Alex. I think it's an incredible platform that you and your team have developed, and I'm really excited for you to deploy it. And I'm excited to use it with my clients in the near future. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Cody. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate this opportunity. I've been a fan of your show for a very long time, and I think I've watched every single episode. So really inspiring. And we love the opportunity coming on your show. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.